From the News Channel 5 Network and AARP, this is AARP Connected.
It's a great day to be connected. Hi, I'm your host, Mia McNeil, and welcome to AARP Connected. I'm glad you've tuned in. We've got a great show in store for you. As you know, during each episode of AARP Connected, we explore important issues that empower you to choose how you live as you age. Work, work, work. The daily grind doesn't have to be a grind, and it's never too late to change your career. And today we'll hear from an expert who will share some great information, resources, and new possibilities for older workers. But before we get into that conversation, let's kick things off with a segment we call Things You Need to Know.
Fraudsters use several tactics to target veterans and their families. Here are 2 scams that veterans and those serving need to watch out for. Members of the military who have obtained a VA mortgage should be especially wary of loan refinance offers. If you're in the market to refinance your loan, read the fine print of the offer and make sure you qualify for the rates and terms that are being advertised. It's important to ask questions up front so you won't be surprised later. You're in the market to rent a home and you see an online social media post for a property offering discounts for active duty military and veterans. They'll often make it easy for you to wire money for the security deposit and the place looks like it's all yours. Truth is, there's no property and you've lost your money. If possible, visit the property, or if you're out of town, have someone you know visit it for you before sending money or signing a contract. For more tips on how to avoid veteran scams, go to aarp.org/veterans. If you want to ensure your home is ready to age with you, here are some things you can do now so that your home will fit your needs for years to come. Make moving around your home safer by adding brighter lighting, handrails in the bathrooms, and non-skid rugs throughout. Installing smart home technology, which can include voice activation, can help you do things like turn on the lights, adjust your thermostat, raise and lower window blinds, as well as lock and unlock your front door. To help navigate dark outside areas, install motion sensing lights to brighten up entranceways. If you're thinking about remodeling, focus on the bathroom. Turning your step-in shower into a zero-threshold shower will not only give you easy access, but can also provide strong resale value. For more homeowner tips, go to aarp.org/home-family.
And finally, I am happy to welcome some key additions to the AARP family. At the very top of the AARP mountain, we have a brand new CEO on board. Dr. Maisha Mentor-Jordan will lead the association and our continued support of caregivers, fighting fraud, and advocating for the needs and interests of people 50+. And closer to home, AARP Tennessee has a new advocacy director. Michaela McCree will serve as our lead for local, state, and federal advocacy work. And as state director, I am thrilled to have her on our team. Whether you live to work or work to live, people are working longer and extending careers well beyond their traditional retirement years. And as the workforce gets older, the challenges of finding the right job can be difficult. Fortunately, we've got a guest today who has expertise in this area. Daryl Curry, the Chief Talent Development Officer for the Nashville Area Chamber of Commerce. He's got lots of great information for older workers in Tennessee. Thank you for connecting with us today. So let's jump right in. So tell us a little bit about what you do at the Nashville Chamber.
Happy to, and thank you all first and foremost for inviting me today and to talk about the golden workforce. So when you hear the Chamber of Commerce, first I'll level set there. We're a membership-based organization that's really focused on creating economic prosperity by facilitating community leadership. What that means for us, and specifically as it relates to talent, is Nashville's a city that's seen tremendous growth. We've seen a lot of businesses come to Nashville. We've seen a lot of that workforce come to Nashville and give us feedback about, where's Nashville headed? Where do we see Nashville going next? How can we preserve Nashville Nashville, and the things that make us great as a city. And one great thing about that we see is we actually are in a context that's really supportive of workers at this moment. And I mean that to say, right now we have so many jobs that we actually have 60,000 available jobs at this very moment. There's about 30,000 people that are searching for work. So when you do those numbers, there's a big gap that can be filled, and there's a lot of opportunities out there. Where the gap is and where our work comes into play is we serve as a pillar for trying to bring Nashville to the table and say, how can we take industry, education, community-based organizations, all training providers and people, and bring each other together to say, these are how we access these pathways, this is how we identify opportunity, this is how we lift up best practices and solutions. And so that is ultimately the driver for our work.
So tell us about the talent and value of the older workforce to what you're doing.
Yeah, so one thing that is really critical to know is that when you look at the older workforce, there's a lot of traits that really set the golden workforce kind of out from others. First and foremost, they tend to be very, very loyal. They tend to hold a lot of content expertise and a lot of knowledge around specific industries if they're staying in that industry. And also if they're switching, a lot of the workforce is really dedicated to how can we build those soft skills for across the board, especially for folks coming in. That workforce is one that you don't have to commit those resources to. But in addition to that, the golden workforce is also growing and growing rapidly. In the last 5 years, it's actually been one of our fastest growing. It also happens to be about 1/3 of our workforce altogether. And when you look back in the history of really how birth rates have slowed, we're not going to be able to replace the talent right now as we traditionally have. And so right now we find ourselves really leaning into the golden workforce, but there's a great opportunity to say, specifically for the golden workforce, how can we get creative? How can we be flexible? How can we create opportunities that really bind to really the strengths and the pieces that you want to lean into, ultimately to make sure that we are being strategic about this growth, about this upskilling, about this reskilling, and that's where this is really a unique point in time.
Interesting. So tell me about how key industries like healthcare, tourism, and the music sector, how are they really adapting to the skills of this golden workforce that you're talking about?
Yeah, and that's amazing. So I will say, broadly, we've seen a lot of growth here in Nashville. Specifically, we've seen a lot of industry growth. We think healthcare when we think Nashville. We think the music industry. We think hospitality industry. But we've seen a lot of growth in IT. We've seen a lot of growth in advanced manufacturing. So where we've seen the conversations as of late is really tailoring to employers have to identify multiple different avenues and strategies to engage talent across the board, and we have to be more flexible than we ever have been. We have to stand up models that really focus on building skills, whether you have them coming in or not. And what's great about that is that there are maybe, I think, in a given time, employers and HR professionals that are looking to set up different models and really find opportunities to engage, that are always recruiting, that are always seeking out individuals that are willing to jump into that workforce and leverage different resources across the state, across the city. And so it's a great time for collaboration. It's a great time for innovation, and we're so excited about it.
Daryl, I love what we're talking about. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, Daryl is going to share with us some great tips and resources about getting the most out of your work career. So stay with us. Welcome back. We're excited to have Daryl Curry on the show today. Daryl is the Chief Talent Development Officer with the Nashville Chamber of Commerce, and we're talking about the aging workforce and how you can be the best in the position to succeed. Okay, so let's say I'm 55, I've worked in the banking industry my entire career, and I want a second chapter and a new career. Where do I start? Well,
there's a lot of opportunity. I would say it really depends on, first, what do you value, what are you seeking in this transition? The first one, and really it's top of mind because of recent requests, if you're in any way, shape, or form interested in teaching and education, there's always opportunities. I know there are CTE professionals, teachers with committed programs. Our post-secondary institutions are always looking for folks to really bring that career and industry expertise into the classroom. And so that's the first one that I would lift up for you. But in addition to that, there's opportunities to really leverage your network, leverage the current nonprofit and community-based organizations that are in the community, as well as chamber resources. I want to say, in addition to coming and attending different events that are industry specific or really highlighting different, I'll say, best practices within the industry, you have that opportunity to, again, connect with education, to connect with industry, to connect with those providers, those training providers, and that provides a unique opportunity to really get a feel for what's out there and where to turn next, and really flesh out that mindset and that idea of what you want to do next.
So tell me, what can and should businesses do to attract more experienced workers?
Yes, I think what is great, especially with the workforce and that flexibility that I spoke about, is that there are different pieces, I think, and values that a business will have and within their strategy that the older professionals are uniquely tailored to fit. I mentioned that content expertise. I mentioned that mentorship. I mentioned that instruction piece. I mentioned being a pillar of the community. All of that we've seen in many, many cases, especially with some of the partners that we work with, that providing that opportunity for the older workforce to engage and assume leadership in a variety of different ways really amplifies, I think, the value proposition for your organization, and approach that in that manner. I think also that specifically in terms of recruiting older workers, making sure that you're flexible and offering different benefits. Remote and hybrid work is certainly one of them. Another one is really leaning into some of those leave, paid time off benefits. A lot of them are also leaning in and being flexible with some of those HR policies. So those are different examples of that.
So tell me, how can older workers lean into their past experiences for these roles and the evolving needs of the businesses that they seek to work in?
There are so many ways and so many answers I could give you to this question. The one I would lean into primarily is leverage your network, leverage your own social capital, look within your industry, look across to maybe some of your competitors, look within your organization, and really right now the need is primarily, again, as a chamber representative, reskilling and upskilling and holding that as a key component that we need everywhere. But in addition to that, there are also going to be opportunities where you can really engage with other, I'll say, talent providers and really contribute to that development and being a pillar of that community that I mentioned a second ago. Really putting yourself out there, engaging that way. The last and final one I will mention is that we are seeing a lot of innovative practices across employers as they lean into technology for efficiency purposes, but also to address gaps. And there's a lot of ways in which companies are trying to figure out what are the ways that some of this will work. And so AI is a great example of that, finding ways to lean into how does this pilot look like and how can we support, and it being tangible and being something that the entire workforce can understand and utilize is a very great way to kind of add value, especially with the evolving conversations.
So keeping all that in mind, what tips can you give to someone who is older than 50, who is looking to change their career?
Oh, amazing. First and foremost, I talked about that growth that Nashville has seen. I talked about the different industries that we've seen boom over the last 10, 20 years. Really, the power is in your hands to determine exactly what your path and your road looks like for you. So identifying what are those values that really create that path for what you want next. Maybe it's remote work, maybe it's being hybrid, maybe it's being flexible, maybe it's being more hands-on, maybe it's working and engaging more so with people directly and focusing on the training aspect. Whatever that is, there are plenty of opportunities within the Nashville region to explore. And then there's that next step of making sure that you're putting yourself out there, connecting with those that know the opportunities available and the opportunities for education and upskilling. We have between Tennessee Reconnect and that scholarship to other training providers in the community, workforce development programs, there's a lot of re-education elements that can help you switch careers if that's something that you're looking for. And so identify those values, take that next step and put yourself out there, and there's a ton of opportunity.
So you talked a little bit about the opportunities that are available. How would Tennesseans find those opportunities, those jobs that are available for them?
There are a variety of ways, and I am a strong proponent of, first and foremost, social capital is going to take you the furthest. So leaning into your network, leaning to the network of those around you, leaning into the networks of your local churches, your friends and family. That's going to be the number one way. But in addition to that, you can also use the Nashville Area Chamber of Commerce has a job board where a lot of offerings are posted there. Leaning into your industries, there's also different job boards that you may be able to find online. You can also lean into organizations like the Center for Nonprofit Management that also has a job board that a lot of individuals frequent. So there's multiple avenues, multiple resources, and if you ever need support in that right, feel free to reach out to us and we're happy to get you some help.
Well, I'm enjoying our conversation. We've got to take a quick break, but be sure to come back as we continue to talk about all the possibilities folks have for working into their golden years. Welcome back to AARP Connected. We have a few minutes left with our guest, Daryl Curry from the Nashville Area Chamber of Commerce. So Daryl, could you share with us a story of an older worker who found a new career path and what others can learn from their story?
Right. Well, I'll say there is one that's really, really close to the heart. There is a individual who raised her 2 kids. Did for everyone else and actually maintained the same job that she got from immediately once she graduated high school. Shortly after sending her own kids off to college, them graduating, and having some time to really just continue and pay off student loans, she ultimately decided to leverage the resources of the Tennessee Reconnect Scholarship. And through that, got the support of various mentors and kind of found that path of I just want to help people and support people that are in a similar predicament and make sure that I'm that guiding light and support. And actually ended up serving in that capacity for many, many, many students and is now continuing to this day to work and support students as they navigate that path. And so it's that type of the pieces that I was talking about mentorship, that purpose-driven piece and connecting and really relating to your experience and your capacity based on your strengths. That is just one I think that really embodies that, and it's amazing to see.
Okay,
Yeah.
So we have a short period of time. Here's my big question for you. What advice would you give employers who are looking to hire more experienced employees?
Be as strategic as you possibly can in this process. There is a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge, a lot of skill really embedded in this workforce. And as much as you can leverage and provide that opportunity for them to operate in that space and what gives them value, the more you will have return to your organization.
And then the big question I know for folks is, in looking at these jobs, you have to put together a resume. People haven't done this in a while. What are some quick tips you can give folks for building a new resume?
Number one, whether you've been at the same organization for a long time or if you've hopped around, it is very important to tailor the skills that are going to be required in this next position, this next role, this next industry to exactly what you've done in the past. So call out those experiences, whether you've worn 1 hat or 7. What are those unique experiences that have really stood out and will contribute to you really shining in this space? And make sure that you highlight those. Data is really impactful and helpful and will drive the point home. And last but not least, there's a lot of value in sharing that with other people. There are other organizations in town that will definitely go through and help you review a resume and help you perfect a resume. But if you don't turn that route, at least send it to 1 to 3 family members, friends that can really put an eye on it and make sure you're giving yourself the best step and support to submit the best resume for you.
Great. And one other question, flexible work arrangements.
Yes.
Are there any thoughts from the Chamber about strategies or resources that are available for folks that actually want to do flexible work?
There are a lot of opportunities out in Nashville for flexible opportunity, and I think a lot of people think that It's mostly telemarketing opportunities, but it's really expanded beyond that. So we're doing a lot of work for really understanding what the market looks like, but I will share that a lot of our employers are also thinking through what do those policies look like, how are they engaging, and I just want to say they are all across the spectrum. There's opportunities to really be a part of a team, but work from home. There's a lot of opportunities to work in one kind of solo by yourself environment and work from home. So there's a ton of flexibility. It may be the only good positive thing to come out of the pandemic, and really leverage that and seek out those opportunities as much as you can.
Fantastic, Daryl. Thanks so much for joining us today. I have really enjoyed having you on the show, and I hope our viewers are inspired by all the career opportunities and resources you've shared today. Before we wrap up, I want to add that AARP also offers innovative tools and tips for experienced workers. It's a whole new way to jumpstart your job search or to help accelerate your career. Visit us at aarp.org/work. If you'd like to connect with AARP, we've got some fun community events coming up. We've got several events to be out on the lookout for. We'll be hosting free shredding events in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and in Nashville and in Memphis to fight identity theft. And we're planning caregiving webinars, scam jam events, pickleball clinics, and much more. And it's all free. No AARP membership is required to participate. Find out more at aarp.org/TN. Stay in the know on all the latest AARP is doing in Tennessee. Connect with us on any of these popular social media sites. And if you enjoy podcasts, we will have a podcast version of each episode available wherever you download your favorite podcast content. Just hit subscribe and get notifications when the new episodes are available. I hope you found our discussion informative and valuable. I'm Mia McNeil, and thanks for being connected.